Today, on a special episode of Rescue USA, when devastating fires break out in the forest or in the city, unlikely heroes step up.
I said, okay, if I'm gonna die right here, I'm gonna do everything I can to protect these patients.
And put their own lives on the line.
Telephone poles were on fire, trees were on fire. It was pretty impressive, the amount of devastation.
To save neighbors, the community, and the most defenseless creatures caught in the blaze.
It just got to the point where I was getting a little anxiety and terrified that, like, what if we don't get these dogs out?
That's our first responders, all heart.
Fueled by ferocious winds and really dry conditions, California's Camp Fire erupted quickly, but then moved even faster than anyone could have imagined, tearing through the picturesque town of Paradise. Though tragedy would engulf this entire peaceful mountain community, heroes would emerge, and they would stand tall in the face of the inferno.
Nestled in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains sits the Northern California town of Paradise. With blue skies, verdant forests, and rolling hills, Paradise truly lives up to its name.
It's a very outdoorsman-type place. Family and friends is what I've always known about Paradise.
There's a ton of swimming holes everywhere you go. You could ride your bikes out till dark time in a group of little mob of kids, and you felt safe.
But the idyllic serenity of the town would be shattered by a giant wildfire one November morning. That morning started out a seemingly routine workday for labor and delivery nurse Tamara Ferguson.
I started my shift at Feather River Hospital like any other day. One of my night shift coworkers was leaving and said, "Did you guys notice that there's an orange glow outside?" And a few of us walked outside and we looked, and it looked pretty far away, so we kind of just went back to doing our business.
What no one yet knew was at 6:30 that morning, a wildfire ignited off Camp Creek Road in Pulgas, California, just 7 miles away. Called the Camp Fire, this inferno was now racing toward Paradise. The campfire raged due to a number of factors. Long-term drought meant there was a highly combustible brush on the hillside. There was also low humidity and high winds. These dry winds not only stoked the flames, but they sent burning embers into the sky, and that caused additional spot fires to ignite. In just an hour and a half, the campfire was literally right outside the doors of Feather River Hospital.
We started to smell smoke in the hallway, and then somebody called overhead, "Code triage, code triage."
My manager was at the desk and I said, "Is this real? What's going on?" She said, "Yes, it's real. Go tell your patients, go get them ready."
Heather Roebuck had just given birth to her second child. Unable to walk on her own after the C-section, she was taken by gurney to the emergency room exit. There, she joined the rest of the patients and hospital staff. The question now, how to safely evacuate all the patients from the hospital.
Medical professionals are trained to handle emergency situations, but in this case, they really had to rely on quick thinking and instincts.
I helped put patients into cars and ambulances, and police cars were driving up, and anywhere that we could put somebody, we put someone.
But once the caravan got on the road, they ran into an even more frightening dilemma.
I started driving, but soon ran into traffic, just bumper to bumper, which never happens in Paradise.
Go, 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 go.
I looked out the back of the ambulance that I was in, and I just saw flames in front of me, just bright, bright flames all around me. I heard traffic say the ambulance in front of us was on fire. But it was kind of the first moment that I thought, are we gonna die here?
New mom Heather was inside the burning ambulance.
There's fire everywhere. It's all around us. There's nowhere for us to go, and the ambulance dies. And she starts it up again and revs the engine, and it dies again.
Heather's husband, Brett, had made it to safety, but now Heather had to make a heartbreaking phone call to him.
I had just told him that there was fire all around my ambulance, and my ambulance died. And that I just loved him so much. And that I love our kids so much, and I'm just so sorry that I'm not gonna be with them anymore, and I'm now making it out of there.
With no time to lose, Dr. Russell jumped out of his car and helped an EMT pull Heather from the burning ambulance. But the enormous fire was surrounding them on all sides.
I thought there was absolutely no way that I was going to get out of this fire. I said, okay, if I'm going to die right here, I'm going to do everything I can to protect these patients.
Their only hope was to find refuge in a nearby house that was still standing.
I look and they're kicking down someone's gate, broke into the garage, and they dragged me up the driveway and in.
After moving the patients into the garage, Tamara approached a fire chief.
I said, what do I do? And he gave us all jobs. He said, you go over there and start sweeping. You fill up buckets with water. Do whatever you can so that it doesn't catch fire.
Started hosing down the bushes and also the tree there to try to keep it from lighting the house on fire.
And all I can see is smoke and fire and them running back and forth.
Finally, after hours of fighting the blaze, a ray of hope.
A fire truck was able to make their way to us, so roads were clear enough to get here.
And it was only a few seconds later that they said, we're going back to Feather River Hospital. And my heart sank, because why would we go back into this fire?
After almost 2 hours of fighting back a raging fire, the staff of Feather River Hospital were finally released and able to find an escape route. But the only way out was to head back to the hospital where the fire was still blazing. Unfortunately, they had no other choice.
We pull into the hospital parking lot and there's tons of personnel and you think, this is over, we're gonna be okay.
It wasn't too long after that the sheriff caravan had come up. They said, all right, we can evacuate people.
We were loading up 10 and 12 patients to a van and getting everybody out. I looked out the back window as flames were all around me again.
It's just fire in front of the ambulance, it's just fire. We didn't think that we were gonna make it out all over again, but we made it all day, and this is the part where we die. It's just sheer terror. And we keep going, she guns it, and boom. It was like you broke through a wall, and all of a sudden there's no fire.
It was blue sky. It just felt like this weight lifted off of you, say, you know, we're out, we're out.
When people face life or death situations, they go into survival mode. It's not until afterwards that the true impact of what they've gone through hits them.
I got a phone call from a gentleman, and he said that he was with Heather, and he was calling to let me know that they were safe. All I could remember telling him was, thank you. I just remember it was just overwhelming.
When I met up with my wife, gave a big hug to each other, at that point, we just started crying. We just felt so blessed to be able to be together.
Tamara and the others from Feather River Hospital had survived the most harrowing experience of their lives. But through the smoke and ash, they found an inner strength and an incredible will to survive.
I'm at Chloe Court. This is where moments I thought I was gonna die and where I also realized that I was gonna live. I watched as next door, this house was completely standing. I saw it catch fire and I saw it burn. You can see how close it came to that house. I think that Paradise is going to stay strong as a community. I think that you could take a lot away from people, but you can't take away their spirit and their unitedness. And we're a really small community here that I feel is very strong and will rebuild.
Though it may have been the most harrowing experience that they've ever gone through, the people of Paradise are determined to move on and recover.
You were able to bring hope to a family. You allowed the human spirit to come through and to help others in need.
That's why I say that I don't feel like a hero, because we're not unique. Everybody was in this situation. Everybody did really heroic things. There's so many amazing people. We're all in this together, and I think that's somewhat comforting to have a group of people that are going through the same thing and understand what you're feeling.
Prior to the fires here in Paradise, the community and the communities around here needed you. Now more than ever, the people of these communities need you.
We're not going anywhere.
And that is the definition of a hero.
Redding, a city cradled within the rugged mountains of Northern California, offers unparalleled views of the outdoors. But one summer night, one small spark sent everything up in flames. It became the ultimate battle between first responders and Mother Nature. A few brave men, though, came out on top when they decided to lend a helping hand to a few wild animals. The city of Redding, in Northern California, is a sleepy community nestled against the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. This majestic mountain range offers so many activities, like hiking, camping, and fishing on nearby Whiskeytown Lake. But on July 23, 2018, an enormous wildfire known as the Carr Fire swept through these mountains, destroying more than 200,000 acres.
Seeing it on the news, it was really different than actually seeing it in person. The power lines were burning, telephone poles were on fire, trees were on fire, stuff was falling as we were driving up. It was pretty impressive, the amount of devastation.
So when Jeffrey Stoddard received a call about a bear cub in distress, he and his team immediately responded.
We just had a report about a bear that was injured, possibly burned.
We had a general area of location where it was supposed to be, but wildlife moves. And then the bear was actually found right down there next to the creek.
She was a really petite, small bear, so she could have been with her mom this year and separated during the fire, or she could have just started being out on her own.
Her paws were extremely burnt. We decided that she wasn't going to make it on her own, left to her own devices.
Through the heroic efforts of first responders, many lives were saved, including a number of frightened and injured animals.
Now, workers from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife were racing against time to save the young black bear. With severely injured paws, the cub was put under the care of veterinarian Jamie Payton of UC Davis, who was working on a revolutionary burn treatment.
We had to really think about how could we create a bandage that would provide protection, pain relief, and also help with healing. We had heard that they were trying tilapia down in Brazil for people, and I thought, well, could we do something similar for animals?
Tilapia is a freshwater fish that inhabit rivers, ponds, and lakes. Their thick, resilient skin contains high levels of collagen, which promotes healing, making it an ideal natural bandage. Jamie and her team had their work cut out for them. This was their first time ever using this treatment on a wounded bear. But after hours of working on the cub, the surgery was a success. And after 6 weeks of recovery, the bear was on the mend and ready to be released back into the wild.
What struck me was when we first found her, she was about 45 pounds, fairly small, had been living out here and, eating what she could. And when we let her go, she was, I want to say 75 pounds. So she'd gained within 6 weeks, 30 pounds or so. When she came out of the cage, I'm like, that's a different bear.
It's exciting to know that an animal that would normally have likely perished was now being released and out into habitat that was going to be really suitable for it.
She did turn back once to say goodbye. I'm saying that, but really I think she was just done. She was like, I'm feeling better and I'm ready to go back to my home.
That's looking better.
That's why we love what we do, because they have such a spirit to survive. And that's something that inspires all of us.
The reaction to help isn't necessarily something that can be taught. To many, it's just instinct. They see something bad happening, and instead of running away, they run into the danger. That's the nature of our first responders. So when a fire broke out in a warehouse right next to a pet store in Connecticut, many people didn't think twice about what to do. They just reacted, saving the lives of dozens of animals. With a population of 80,000, Danbury is the 7th largest city in Connecticut and one of the most diverse cities in the country. One of its beloved businesses is Puppy Love, a local landmark for 25 years owned by Nancy Silverman and her husband, Sean.
Over the years, we have had people come back for second, third, and fourth dogs, believe it or not.
One evening, Nancy and her employees closed up shop like normal, and then they went home. Across the street, good friends Jonathan Villa and Eric Walsh were celebrating their new business venture at a popular restaurant.
So we went out to have a nice dinner. We had our laptops with us. We were getting some work done. And then one of the waitresses came over and said, the building next door is on fire. So we went outside and you just saw flames like 30 feet in the air.
Dispatch received a phone call from people on scene stating that there was a fire on the roof. We went out to the rig, got dressed, started heading out the door.
A warehouse fire was spewing flames, billowing massive plumes of smoke directly behind the pet store.
The first thing we thought of was the puppies, the puppies.
Thinking the exact same thing, Eric and Jonathan leapt into action.
We start thinking, wow, that's a bunch of puppies, it's late, you know what I mean? Like, somebody's got to do something.
Motivated to help, they rushed over to a group of people that were literally trying to break into the store.
People had grabbed like a statue and were trying to use the statue to ram the glass open.
With the fire growing, the determined volunteers finally forced their way into the pet store.
You jump in, there's just cages everywhere. 40, 50 cages spread here, spread there, spread some towards the back. So then we start from the back, moving all the cages towards the front.
Moments later, the Danbury Fire Department arrived.
As soon as I stepped off the engine, people were running up to me, screaming, you know, what about the puppies? We got to get the puppies. I said to the guy, yeah, you can start getting the puppies, because I knew we needed to make our attack around back and try and get water on this.
This army of volunteer heroes quickly mobilized and started the evacuation.
We must have had 5 people between the back of the store and the front door, and then another 5 to 10 people outside, getting them across the street. And everybody was just talking and really communicating and working together. It was amazing.
The civilians were doing a good job of moving the puppies out. They weren't in any relative danger at that point, so we let them continue doing that.
I'm born and raised here, and I mean, it's a pretty strong community, and they weren't taking no for an answer. When they were asking me, should we get the puppies? It didn't matter if I said no, step back. They were gonna get in there.
Many of us want to volunteer our services during an emergency, but it's critical to remember that our first responders are trained professionals, and they are always in charge of the scene. In this case, they allowed the citizens to help rescue the puppies, but always follow their direction. They're there to keep you safe, too.
So when we got them all out the front door, we had probably about 60 cages all over the road. It was just every type of dog, came a petting zoo, and everybody was willing to give a hand and make sure to get those dogs out of there.
By this point, all 86 puppies were safely out of the building. They were then sheltered in an empty store offered up by a neighbor, as the community came out to support the group effort.
It was amazing how an experience like that could really bring people together. And you could feel it was so heartfelt in that moment. And it's just kind of seeing everybody else take action really made you want to take action and do more.
It's important that in this day and age, we all look out for one another, because there are so many instances when that's not the case.
I think the real heroes that day were the civilians. They really went above and beyond to try to help in a pretty desperate situation. It shows the caring and the humanity that they have.
Awesome job saving all these puppies.
The owner was just really, really thankful for everything that happened. So it was real touching, you know, and I was just glad to be able to be there and be a part of it and help.
Between the firemen and the community, it was amazing what type of strength they had and what type of support we have. It was wonderful.
To be able to be part of that and all to come together collectively to do something good, definitely felt really good.
It's nice to see in this day and age that people still do the right thing.
We saw 2 frightening fires and 86 adorable puppies that were saved. But most importantly, a lot of brave heroes. The best of humanity in the worst of times. I'm Ginger Z. Thank you so much for watching.